Hello, welcome to the Daily Fantasy Flex Podcast, the NFL edition. It is week 6. I am your host, Bryan Mears, and I am joined by fellow FantasyLabs regulars, Adam Levitan and Matthew Freedman. And then guest this week is TJ Hernandez, who is an associate editor at 4for4 Football. He co-hosts the DFSMVP Podcast with other friend of the podcast, Chris Raybon. He's co-founder of Roster Coach and just writes a lot about fantasy football. TJ, thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I do write a lot about fantasy football, as you guys do too as well. We're just talking about not getting sleep. I'm already excited for sleeping in January or February.
Yeah, it feels like forever away, but it's nice to have something to look forward to. Freeman, you doing all right, man?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. Just starting to write the quarterback breakdown and ready to pump out these positional pieces.
Sweet. And Levitan, man, you've been gone for a couple of weeks, but you've been rocking the 3 donkeys. How you doing?
Oh, it's great to be back with you boys. Thanks for having me back. I've missed you all, especially Freedman, my British friend. I've missed him greatly. Many of you guys don't know this out there. We actually shared a room. We shared quarters down in Orlando for a night. Yeah, and we had
one
nice
glorious
evening.
Night. Just one night.
A nice evening, and then next thing I know, I come up to the room the next night, and all Freeman's stuff is gone. He left me. So it's good to be back here with Freedman. Good to be back on the show, guys. Looking forward to it.
I found a better room. I don't know what else to tell you.
It's a one-night stand, and that's all it'll be. All right, let's dive into the show. As usual, we're going to start with the segment just called Real or Fake. We're going to talk about a real trend and a fake trend. It could be from week 5 and looking ahead to the season, or it could just be about the whole season and something that we think could be real or fake moving forward. Freeman, why don't you kick us off here?
Okay, so my trend that is real is the struggle with the Cardinals. They're lucky to be even 0-5. They're not 0-5, but they should be. They're lucky not to be 0-5. But against the spread, they're 0-5, and if they could be worse, they would be. They have a spread differential, so that's the actual differential in points scored minus the spread of negative 10.2 points per game. That's the worst mark in the league. On offense, they're underperforming their implied total by 7.2 points per game. And on defense, and they're supposed to be a good defense, but on defense, they're allowing opponents to outperform their Vegas totals by 3 points. So in the ultimate sign of desperation, they just traded for Adrian Peterson. They have significant injuries along the offensive line. So I like some of the individual players on that team, but it's really a mess there. And in terms of a fake trend, I'm going with the triumph of the Jaguars, or I don't know, I guess I'd try to say that in a British accent, but I won't. They have had 3 huge blowout victories, and those are skewing their overall numbers, and I think they're unrepresentative of what we could see from that team moving forward. So their defense is legit, right? And they're holding opponents to 4.45 points per game below their implied totals. So that's great. That's 4th in the league. But they're also 2nd in the league in outperforming their own Vegas total by 9.35 points. And that is totally unsustainable, especially with Blake Bortles at quarterback. So I am not buying their 3-2 record. Even if they somehow win the AFC South, they just look like the type of team that gets crushed by an eventual Super Bowl champion in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think maybe the more interesting question with the Jags is just whether the Pittsburgh Steelers are just really bad or not. They look pretty bad, but we can get into that once we get into the slate. TJ, what are some things that have stood out to you last week or just the whole season that are real or fake?
Yeah, I think the real trend that stood out to me last week was Carlos Hyde playing time. We already kind of saw Matt Breida creeping up in both snaps and touches, and then I know he had the hip thing, and then they said it wasn't the hip, that he actually got benched. That's probably worse for his prospects moving forward. The 49ers actually rank 5th in pass rate in neutral situations, and they're one of the worst teams at point differential. So even outside of neutral situations, I think they're going to continue to be pretty pass heavy because of game scripts. I don't think it's going to be a split that we saw last week, but I don't think Hyde's going to be a 65% backfield touch share guy. So that's just going to move closer to a committee than we're going to feel comfortable with. Kind of similar to what Freedman was talking about, a team that is, I think everyone will agree a fake trend is the Jets. They've won 3 in a row. 2 of those have been against the Browns and the Dolphins, who I think we all agree are just really poor teams. And then one of them against Jacksonville, who Freedman was talking about. I just don't think they're as good as they look either. That Pittsburgh game last week, I think that was just kind of a situation where once things start spiraling in games, they can just get out of control pretty quickly. And all of a sudden, Steelers just started forcing all these passes against a team that is an opposite funnel. They should have been running 50 times against that team instead of throwing. So I think that game is an aberration. I think Big Ben was saying, he doesn't know if he has it. I think he was kind of saying that tongue-in-cheek out of frustration, but I don't think either of those teams are as good as we think.
Yeah, it was interesting to see them not be funneled when they should have. Levitan, finish this off here. What are some real fake things?
Well, it only took 4 years for the fantasy community to be right, but Jerick McKinnon is real. If you keep saying it, it has to come true. But look, I mean, in his last 7 games without Dalvin Cook, he's averaged 5.8 catches per game. I think even if you believe that Jerick McKinnon happened to get the hot hand and Latavius is going to play more next week, we still know we have a locked-in pass game floor from Jerick McKinnon. And Latavius Murray has come out and said himself that his ankle is not 100% healthy. It would be a shock to me if we didn't see Jerick McKinnon get, 40, 50% of the early down work plus all the pass game work on a team that loves to dump the ball off to their running backs. So I think full PPR on DraftKings. I mean, my first kind of instinct, I didn't do ownership, my first round of ownership projection yet, but I would not be surprised at all if Jerick McKinnon is the most owned player on the Week 6 slate on DraftKings, mispriced at 4,100. My fake trend is everybody burying Amari Cooper. And I Peter did not tell me to say this, but it's crazy. Dude had over 1,000 yards at age 21 and age 22. And now we're going to say that he just can't play anymore. It's been 5 NFL games. To say that as any kind of sample whatsoever is insane. I think drops are just so wildly overrated, and he's really struggled with drops, but that doesn't mean that it's going to continue. So with Derek Carr back, and a ton of good matchups coming up. I don't think he'll get shattered by Casey Hayward this week, but regardless, it's just a meh matchup. But then after that, he starts getting some amazing matchups going forward, do the Raiders pass game. So if I was in a season-long league, I would be trying to target Amari Cooper, but thankfully, for my own sake, I am not in any season-long leagues.
True that. Yeah, I guess since you're filling in for Pete, then you're going to acquire not only his prop record, which we'll get to. It's not great, Levitan, but you also acquire his analysis here. So got to stay on brand.
Actually, here's one thing. He might help Pete's prop record. I don't know if this is really fair. Pete's getting an advantage here with Levitan coming in.
That's true. We'll have to figure out what to do with that. All right, let's hop into the slate. We have another 11-game main slate on DraftKings. We have 4 teams on bye. The Bills, the Bengals, the Cowboys, and the Seahawks. Thursday night game is the Eagles and Panthers, and then prime time on Sunday, Giants, Broncos, and then Monday is Colts and Titans. So we do have some better quarterbacks back in the pool. Should be an interesting week. Let's jump into our first segment that we always do here, talking about the chalk. TJ, I'll start with you first on this one. When you're making lineups this week, who are the first players you're tending to lock in? Who are the chalky plays you're fine with being in your cash game core?
Yeah, I think at the top is going to be Deshaun Watson. He's going to be facing a Cleveland team that ranks last in fantasy points allowed when adjusted for strength of schedule against quarterback. And then I believe Watson's the overall QB1 right now. So I think a lot of people are going to be locking him in. He's probably going to be where I'm starting. And then I believe Matt Ryan will probably be a really popular play. The Falcons have the highest implied point total of the week. At running back, we already talked about McKinnon. He's priced at $4,100 on DraftKings, and we really haven't had that lock-in free square play at running back yet this year. So I think everyone's going to be looking his way. And then with AP being traded, Engram and Kamara right around that 4,400, 4,500 mark. I don't know which way people are going to go. I know a lot of people are going to be excited about Kamara because of the PPR, but I think Ingram's fine as well. And then Todd Gurley, you're still getting at a little bit of a discount on DK at 7,700 compared to some of the top guys. I mean, he has pretty much highest workload in the league, and he's still priced as the RB5 over there. So at 7,700 with that free square available, I think a lot of people will be locking him in as well.
Yeah, that's great. Levitan, I'll kick to you next, and I specifically want to know your thoughts on that New Orleans running back situation.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of an overreaction. I mean, Adrian Peterson only played 9 snaps last game, right? So I'm not going to go completely nuts here. Now, there certainly would have been Kamara and Engram would have been underpriced even if Peterson didn't get traded. So, yeah, maybe it clears out maybe like 3 or 4 total touches, 5 total touches for each of those guys, raises the floor a little bit. Like, there was no situation to me, in my opinion, where Adrian Peterson was getting a hot hand, but you could argue that now there's absolutely no chance that happens. So the floors of those guys are raised. I always thought Mark Ingram could really play, and he was really good, but the Saints have not agreed. It's been pretty obvious throughout Mark Ingram's career that the Saints have not agreed that Mark Ingram is #good. So my first instinct is to lean Kamara's way, but I will certainly have to look at it a lot more.
Cool. Any other guys like at other positions that seem chalky to you early on?
Yeah, I think Matthew Stafford and Freedman has an article up right now about the Coors Field of DFS, which I think is important to read ahead of this game, which will be, people are going to be looking at hard. These two teams did meet last year, and Drew Brees just totally shit the bed. Can I say shit on here anymore?
Yeah, I mean, okay. You already did, so might as well go for it.
Yeah, I'm not editing this. Come on.
Okay. Yeah, so last year these two teams played in the Superdome, and Drew Brees, I remember because I played him, and like I never pay up for quarterback, and I played Drew Brees, and he totally shit the bed. 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, did get the 300-yard bonus in garbage time, but I think more people lean towards Matthew Stafford for a lot of the reasons that Freedman points out in the article, and Matthew Stafford down at 6,500, 200 cheaper than Watson, I think is interesting. I think that maybe people won't click this guy because maybe they're a little bit scared of him. But to me, Lamar Miller has moved way ahead of Devonta Freeman, and on a team with capable quarterback play now. He's home against the Browns, and I know the Browns have played good run defense to this point, a relatively good run defense. It's still just a really good overall environment for Lamar Miller to score really well at 5,400. So those are two guys that stood out to me outside of what TJ said.
Freeman, get in here.
Yeah, so I think TJ and Levitan hit on a lot of the guys. Watson, even Breeze, I think, higher priced guy, but I think Breeze at home as a favorite is a good spot. And then obviously Stafford on the other side of that. I am interested in Devonta Freeman as a home favorite there in a game with a high total. Ever since his breakout season, he has done very well in that situation as a home favorite. I like Engram and Lamar Miller as home favorites. And then I am interested in McKinnon as that free square guy. I'm also slightly interested in Elijah McGuire, but I think that's more of a contrarian take. But if Powell is out, he could get a lot of snaps going against the Patriots defense. I think it will be improved, but going against the Patriots defense that has allowed, if not the most points to running backs, near the top 2 points allowed to running backs.
Sure. Yeah, and McGuire was getting most of the work last week anyway. All right, let's keep on moving here. Let's talk about some chalky fades and leverage and pivot plays. So which chalky players are you looking to pivot away from? And then who might be some of the leverage and pivot plays you're considering? Adam, I'll kick to you first.
Yeah, so if we think Todd Gurley is going to be high owned, we saw last week Tavon Austin steal 6 carries. We saw last week Malcolm Brown get in there on third downs a bunch. And as someone who played Todd Gurley instead of Melvin Gordon like a true moron, that was painful to see. And that would scare me going forward against this really good Jacksonville defense. I know Jacksonville is not as good against the run, but like once we start really like parsing out these things against defenses like Ezekiel Elliott against the Broncos, well, you can run on the Broncos, Todd Gurley against the Seahawks. Well, everybody can run on the Seahawks. Le'Veon Bell against the Jaguars. Well, everybody can run on the Jaguars. Well, sometimes when a defense is really good, it can create problems for both sides of an offense. So that would scare me on Gurley at 7,700. I'm not sure how chalky he'll be though after a bad game. So maybe that would be not necessarily a fade, but just a guy that I might be looking to avoid. And then, at quarterback, there's so many options this week. I will say, TJ mentioned Deshaun Watson. I think Stafford, Breeze, Ryan, Brady, Kirk Cousins. There are an unbelievable amount of quarterback options this week. I would encourage people kind of play what you like at quarterback and not to worry too much about ownership.
That's fair. TJ, what are some of the pivot plays? And just a general question before you sort of move into that. Do you think with some of the chalky, lower priced running backs, like you said, that we just hadn't had a free square, and if we have McKinnon, if some of these New Orleans guys are going to be popular, I mean, that's a lot of salary that you're leaving open to possibly paying up a quarterback, wide receiver. How do you think that's going to affect just the roster dynamics this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll definitely see a lot of people just try to go with that stars and scrubs approach, trying to get some of those top-priced quarterbacks, top-priced receivers. Levitan hit on some of the ways I want to pivot off what I think people are doing. He mentioned pivoting off Gurley. I think going back to Melvin Gordon after his big week, we saw so much of that workload go to him with Brandon Oliver out. I don't think there's a line out on that game with no – I don't think the news is definitive on Carr yet, but I would expect that to be a pretty close line with a relatively high over-under. So I like going back to Melvin Gordon. Devonta Freeman, if Gurley ends up being chalky. I never really know how the public's going to gauge that Atlanta offense because Freeman doesn't necessarily see all of the backfield work, but he does get most of the red zone work. So I always like going to him in these spots. Watson and Ryan, I mentioned up top, I think are going to be some of the highest owned quarterbacks this week, but Cousins is sandwiched right between them in salary. I really like going there just because I think he'll go a little bit ignored with all the guys we've mentioned. And then with all the cheap running backs we mentioned staying in that same game, I like getting some of Chris Thompson. He's a little bit more expensive, but he's at $5K. So with Kamara's and the McKinnon's, he's going to get a little bit overlooked in a really good spot against San Francisco. So I'll be throwing him in some kind of as a pivot off of the cheaper running backs.
Freeman, what are your thoughts on roster construction and pivots this week?
Yeah, I'm interested in really fading Ryan and Julio Jones. Ever since last season when they've started winning games and they've had that game script that enables them to lean heavily on the run, they just haven't been productive as home favorites. And so I would be interested in going to someone like Aaron Rodgers. Like, we haven't mentioned him once in the show, and that's totally fine. He's not in a great spot, in comparison to the other quarterbacks. He's on the road going against a Vikings secondary that's pretty decent. But he leads the league in touchdowns, and in any given game, he could throw for 5 touchdowns. So if you have the opportunity to be slightly contrarian by going with the guy who's really good, I don't mind that. I'm curious as to what the thoughts are on Leonard Fournette, how popular he will be as a potential home favorite. Or sorry, not potential home favorite. He is a home favorite going against the Rams defense that's allowing the most fantasy points in the league to running backs. So I'm curious as to what Levitan and TJ think about him in terms of how the market will value him. But as it is, I'm kind of fine pivoting away from him and going to someone like Le'Veon Bell, who still leads the league in total touches and has the most carries inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah, I purposely didn't include him in my notes because I couldn't figure out how the public would perceive him either. Adjusted for strength of schedule, Rams rank last in the league against running backs. But again, I kind of try to figure it out by looking at where he's at relative to other players. He's only 300 more than Gurley on DK and 200 less than Hunt. So that would make me think that his ownership is going to be pretty depressed. So I guess from an ownership standpoint, you could make the argument for having some shares of him. But of those 3, I think he'll definitely be the lowest owned guy.
Mm-hmm.
Levitan, any thoughts?
I don't know, man. People see that box score, they look at the game log, and then they see Fournette just go completely ham.
And they see the highlight of him waving a guy over for contact.
Yeah.
There's – yeah.
I kind of think that Fournette might be more owned than Melvin, certainly more owned than Todd Gurley. So much is based on the game log and what they did last week with ownership. So we'll see. I'm going to think more about that. For a promo, I am going to work on the first run of ownership projections after this show tonight. So it should be up by about midnight tonight.
What are our thoughts on the wide receiver tight end position? That's we've just focused so much on running back and wide receiver, and for good reason. Those are the most loaded positions. Levitan, do you have any thoughts on do you think people are going to – I mean, it seems like a week that you might pay up for wide receivers, but you have AB on the road. You have
it's DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Hopkins. Yeah.
Yeah. So who would be a pivot away then?
Yeah. So I totally understand what Freedman is saying about Julio. Julio has seen a slight increase in red zone usage under Steve Sarkisian, but it's still not great. And Julio has been a guy they haven't necessarily needed. Now, with Mohamed Sanu out, does that change? Is there more plays for Julio, or does it go to Taylor Gabriel and Justin Hardy and Austin Hooper or whoever else? How healthy is Julio's hip / back / foot / ankle? These are all questions people are going to be asking themselves. Might keep ownership down slightly. But yeah, the guy that you would have to pay up to be contrarian for is certainly Antonio Brown in a really like tough environment. You know, like I don't think that Kansas City's defense is anything special, and maybe Marcus Peters is a bit overrated, and certainly Terrence Mitchell isn't that good, but Antonio Brown, just a bad overall environment for the Steelers. So I think that would be a kind of a pay up to be contrarian spot. And then as you go further down, you know, people will click Keenan, people will click Michael Thomas, people will click Jordy, probably people click Chris Hogan, but I don't think anything extravagant with ownership for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the question: is how do you deal with DeAndre Hopkins? That's a big question for me in this slate. So we can keep on talking about that as we move through the podcast here. Let's keep on moving. Conventional stacks. It will be our next segment. What are some of the conventional stacks that we are considering this week? Friedman, I'll kick to you first on this one.
Well, I mean, we've been talking about these guys, but I want everyone in Houston, like Watkins, Nuke, Will Fuller, who I think is sort of like the second coming of Odell Beckham Jr., Ryan Griffin going against a Browns defense that just hemorrhages points to tight ends, Lamar Miller, the Texans defense, the equipment manager, like anyone who's on the sideline for the Texans, I'm interested in stacking them. And then I think Breeze with Thomas or Snead. I'm a little more interested in Snead because he's under the radar. Yeah, I think those two high-scoring games, then obviously you can run them back. I'm interested in running back with Golden Tate. And then I don't know, if you're going to run back the Browns-Texans game, especially if Hogan plays, I'm slightly interested in David Njoku. Who actually has 3 touchdowns to date, and it's a small sample, so you don't want to get too excited. But in only 5 career games, he's looked pretty impressive so far, and 2 of those touchdowns have come from Kevin Hogan. He has 50% of the Browns receiving touchdowns. No tight end in NFL history in his first 5 games has had more touchdowns than Njoku so far. So I don't know. He's kind of an impressive guy. He's doing a lot just at age 21. I don't think he's even 21 yet. Maybe he just turned 21.
Before I go on, did Freedman just give Will Fuller and Odell Beckham comp?
Yeah, he did.
You're gonna have to. You can't just like pass that off, Freedman. You have to at least give us 1 minute on why.
And also, I asked for a conventional stack, and you talk about Njoku.
Well, okay, fair enough. But I was talking about like running it back on the other way. I think. Okay, so I think for part of the thing with Fuller is that for a guy who's smaller, he's pretty good in tight spaces and making contested catches, and that's something that Beckham is pretty good at. And I think he also has the athleticism and the speed, like to be able to get free on long routes, but also turn short receptions into longer touchdowns. Like we haven't seen that with him consistently last year. But what we've seen from him, one, from like the Bayesian priors of college, like he was an outrageous college producer and a great athletic guy coming into the NFL. So what we've seen from him in college, and then what we've seen from him in a small sample with a competent quarterback has been pretty impressive.
Levitan's here for the OBJ slander. He's waiting for it.
Nah, man, I actually feel bad for the dude. That was like the tears with the out for the season and the surgery. I know I don't want to bash the guy. I just thought that was interesting on Will Fuller. It's so hard to evaluate Will Fuller last year because he had Brock, So I am interested in Will Fuller takes. Yeah,
for sure. TJ, what are your thoughts on some of the chalky stacks? I know that obviously Watson, DeAndre is very obvious. Anything else that's really standing out to you?
Yeah, I mean, we've already talked about that New Orleans game. Freedman said Coors Field of football. I think stacking both sides of that game, whether you're whatever quarterback you're on, getting a correlation play on the other side. I like Marvin Jones against the Saints, who've allowed one of 3 teams to allow at least 20 plays of 20-plus yards through the air. So I like going there, just stacking that whole game. I already mentioned Kirk Cousins. I don't know what receiver I want to stack him with yet, but I know I'm going to want a lot of that stack just because I think the Redskins could put up a really good number against the 49ers. So those are probably the 2 spots that I'm looking to the most. Some of my other favorite ones, I guess, are a little more contrarian, so I'll save those for a minute.
Sure. Yeah, maybe not any meat left on this question, but Levitan, I'll kick to you anyway.
I mean, nobody's mentioned the guy on pace for the greatest season by a quarterback in NFL history, and Tom Brady facing a talent-deficient Jets team on a long week. I typically like to pair Tom Brady with somebody other than Brandon Cooks for lower ownership, but I think now people are kind of hip to the game that Hogan is a more consistent producer than Brandon Cooks, so I may have to rethink that, but definitely pairing Brady with somebody, whether it's Gronk, who should be healthy off the long week, whether it's Cooks or Hogan, or probably wouldn't do it with Amendola, but maybe with James White or something like that. I think this is a really good spot for the Patriots as a whole.
Cool. All right, let's get into some of those contrarian stacks that you were teasing there, TJ. I'll kick to you first, let you go.
Yeah, I actually purposely didn't mention Brady because I think an interesting contrarian stack there is Gillislee with the Pats defense. I think I talked about at the top of the show, I think Jets are a lot worse than their last 3 wins have shown. And as bad as the Patriots defense is, I believe this is their first division game. I think Patriots just put up a huge beatdown on the Jets this week, and we haven't really seen it from Gillislee since week 1. I think we finally see kind of that positive game flow that we saw so many times from LeGarrette Blount last week. And then Freedman kicked off the show with a team that I want to attack, and that's the Cardinals. I think Jameis and Deshaun is a really nice contrarian stack. Jameis is thrown for 303 straight games, only threw 1 touchdown last week, but we'll probably see a lot of Patrick Peterson on Evans, which I think could free up Deshaun. He had over 100 yards last week. Still hasn't found that end zone. I think this could be the week he does it.
Cool. Other than all of the Kevin Hogan stacks, Freedman, who are some of your pivots that you're looking at?
So TJ just he snaked one of mine. I was going to say Gillislee and the Pats, but also I think if you wanted to go with the Pats, my thought was also Brady with one of the non-primary receivers. So I would say James White, and I also think Amendola, who in his Patriots career has really been a pretty productive guy in games without Julian Edelman. Like he's very much played that Julian Edelman role. I don't mind Gurley in the Rams versus the Jaguars. Obviously, they have a horrible run defense, so kind of see what happens there. I don't know how Gurley is going to be popular as a road dog. I mean, it's possible, but it just seems as if there are other players that people would maybe prefer given their situation. I'm also interested in the Ravens with one of their running backs, like probably Buck Allen. Pretty significant home favorites. Ravens are second in the league in turnovers and interceptions. They're facing a rookie quarterback making his second start. So I think there are a lot of good things in that situation, but it is kind of hard to trust Buck Allen or just anyone on the Ravens offense.
Cool. Levitan, I'll kick to you. And I do want to ask you about one specific team. This Tampa Bay-Arizona game, we were talking about how bad Arizona is. Jameis coming off rest. He was like the smash spot against New England and put up an okay game. I'm curious your thoughts on him and then some other pivot guys you're looking at.
Well, that was going to be my contrarian stack. Every week I'm trying to hit Justin Bethel, hit it last week with Wentz to Torrey Smith, and why wouldn't we want to hit it this week with Jameis to Deshaun Jackson? And unfortunately, Deshaun Jackson's price has come up to $5,800, which is more than I typically would like to pay for him, but that should keep his ownership down. I think this kind of number 2 wide receiver thing against Arizona is getting more and more popular, so it would be really high owned if Deshaun was, say, 4,700 or something at 5,800. I think it keeps it down a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, I actually think this is a reasonable spot for the Cardinals pass game. Like, I've been totally off them the last few weeks when they've been chalk, thankfully. And now I think people are just going to be like, oh, the Cardinals can't score. Well, I think against this Tampa Bay team at home, I do think that Carson Palmer able to put some points up. And we could be looking at a serious shootout here. Even though the total is only 44.5, I've talked about before, like one of the biggest edges we can find with so many people building their teams off of Vegas lines is taking a strong stance against the Vegas line. So I think that Tampa and Arizona will be high scoring, and that would be a kind of contrarian stack in that game on both sides.
Yeah.
Can I mention one thing I forgot to say twice? Levitan mentioned the price of Deshaun, and we already talked about how I think a lot of people are going to try to high-low with their with stars and scrubs this week. Not just Deshaun, I think getting off of McKinnon and targeting pass catchers for the Vikings this week against Green Bay, whoever it might be, Thielen at 6,000 or Diggs at 7,500. They both kind of had bad games last week with whatever that quarterback situation was. And not only is it going to give you a really unique lineup, but it's going to get you off of a popular play in a game that could be one of those sneaky shootouts, like I think Freedman talked about earlier.
Yeah, that's sharp. I like that. All right, let's move on and talk about some of our bold calls. Each of you give me one real bold football call and then one bold DFS call. Freedman, let's see what you got.
Okay, I'm going to say that the Rams are double-digit winners on the road going against the Jags. And then I don't know how bold this is, but I'm going to say Kamara has 100 scrimmage yards and a touchdown.
Cool. Levitan, what are some bold calls you're looking at?
I will channel my inner Pete here. Double dong for Amari Cooper. I don't think Casey Hayward will shadow Derek Carr getting back healthy, playing at home. I think it actually is a good spot to get Amari Cooper healthy here at really low ownership. And in real life, I don't know, is it bold to say that the Patriots will beat the Jets by 30, or is that's not even bold?
30
I think that's
points
fair.
is
That's fair.
pretty bold.
All right, yeah, 30 ball. You can bet adjusted lines at a lot of books, by the way. You could get like Patriots minus 20 at like plus 300 or something like that, and I like that bet.
I like it too. TJ, what are some bold calls you're looking at?
Real football call. I'm going to go with the rest of season call. I'm going to say AP totals less than 500 yards for the rest of the season. I was trying to come up with a bold number and a hard line. I think 500 is a nice round number that can get people to maybe argue a little bit. And then DFS, I've been talking about Cousins quite a few times. I'm going to go with Cousins as a QB1 this week.
QB1. Oh, I like that call. Yeah, a nice pivot and stick to your guns. I like it a lot. All right, well, that's a perfect segue to the people's favorite part, the skill game propositions. It's time to put some six-packs of Coors Light into play. We're going to offer up some skill game propositions for the next couple minutes and battle with each other here. I say let's start with one that's pretty easy, and I think it's a thing that people are just going to be wanting to know. So let's just sort of take some sides, and maybe we all agree, maybe we don't. Engram versus Kamara.
Interesting. I'm going to go Kamara.
I haven't looked into it enough, but my first instinct is Kamara on DK and Engram on FanDuel, but I really would have to look at it more.
Yeah. I'm going to go against everyone and say Engram. I mean, his snap and touch share is pretty much what it's been the last couple of years where he's been a RB10. I think he'll get similar workload now. Kamara will get those PPR points, but I actually think Saints win this game coming off a bye, and that favors Engram.
I'm on the Engram side as well, so we could go with 2 versus 2 here. I mean, it's not like Ingram's like not involved with the passing game, you know?
Yeah. Oh, he's awesome in the passing game. By the way, what are the
he had 8 targets last week.
What are the standings in the skill game props? I'm curious.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm supposed to announce these. Yeah, my bad. So year to date, Freedman 52-53. So he's one game below 500, but could get up there. One skill prop below 500 rather. Pete is 50-65. So Freeman, you got some work to do. Even though he did have a really nice week, he went 12-7 last week. I am 34-31, so just a little above 500. And then our guests are just crushing us, 46-31.
I was part of the guests. I was on week 1, and I am part of the guests, right?
Your guys' win rate sound like my DK head-to-head win rate right now.
All right.
That's not good. That's not good, man.
I'll take Stafford over Watson straight up if anybody wants it.
That's a good line, honestly.
I'll take Watson. I'll do that.
Okay.
Although I like it. I think it's a good
I'll take
prop.
Watson. I'll take Watson, but I like the prop.
Yeah, I like Stafford in that game a lot.
I'll take Brady, and you can have any two other quarterbacks.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like Pete. I'm just giving out equity everywhere. Let's just get it out. Let's get it.
I'll take. I'll do some hedging here. I'll do Breeze and Stafford on that.
Okay.
I'll go Breeze and Watson. No hedge left for me. TJ, there's so much equity. You got to get on this one.
I know. Brady versus any two quarterbacks?
Yeah, whoever scores the most points wins the bet.
That's pretty generous luck there.
All right,
Dude,
I'm gonna go Cousins and Stafford.
I know what Levitan's doing. He knows that he has Pete's record, so he's just like throwing
Hail Marys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's playing with the house's money. It doesn't matter.
He's got nothing to lose right now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like it.
I will give – if you guys like Elijah McGuire, I will go with Amir Abdullah versus McGuire straight up if anybody wants that.
I don't even like McGuire to begin with.
Yeah, I'd like Amir.
You know what? Here,
why don't you set a line on DK points or something?
No, hey, I'll do that. I'll take McGuire against Abdullah on all three of you guys if you're up for it.
Wow, upping the stakes. I'm in.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah. I mean, their projections aren't too far apart right now in our models.
I'll go McKinnon versus Thielen DK points. Thielen getting +2.
Thielen getting +2? He's like 1,900 more.
They play different positions.
That's such a great answer.
What does that mean?
They played. I know it purports to say something, but it really says nothing. It's just they play different positions.
So
That accounts for it.
So in our models, we just released they're projected for the exact same number of points.
Really?
Yeah, 14.2.
I would still take it heads up.
Thielen
I want Thielen over McKinnon. Straight up DK points.
All right, I'll give you action. I'll take McKinnon. Well, I kind of expect it to be Case Keenum again, by the way. I mean, Bradford couldn't even walk out there, so we'll see. But
I'll take McKinnon. Although I don't want to. I mean, I feel like it's the side to take, but I don't want to take McKinnon on anything. It
just shows how chalky McKinnon's going to be because we're taking a guy who's 1,900 cheaper than another guy straight up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's going to be massively owned.
Does anyone have any?
But when did pricing come out though?
Yeah, before the game.
Yeah, so I mean, it makes sense that he's that cheap.
Yeah.
Right. Does anyone have any tight end stances? That's a position that we haven't really hit on. Maybe someone has some strong stances on Skittles.
Yeah, I thought that I didn't pull the trigger on it, but it's not people are how do people land on George Kittle? They're cheating. They're definitely not cheating. George Kittle is a total athletic freak playing a ton in a plus matchup. It really wasn't that crazy. I think he has another good matchup this week against the Redskins. Wouldn't surprise me if he plays well, but I just think from an overall perspective, it's, a much tougher matchup for Hoyer going into Washington. Washington off of the bye should be hungry and ready to play, whereas the Colts are just a total disaster. So I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with Kittle at 3,500, 3,400. I think that Austin Hooper might be more interesting at 3,500 without Sanu. And I actually think Zach Miller saw a huge target share with Trubisky, which kind of intrigues me. And Zach Miller is only 2,900.
Yeah, Miller has that Monday night discount. I like that.
Is Miller cash viable at 29?
Or is it 3K's cash viable?
Yeah.
Tight end's always gross, but it's really gross this week.
Yeah, I know. I mean, 29, even Trubisky on the road. It's
Yeah, I'll take I think we saw the gap kind of expand or change between Hunter Henry and Antonio Gates. They won the game. Hunter Henry caught a touchdown. Like, it would make sense for the gap to continue to widen. I think it was about 70% of Phillip Rivers dropbacks Hunter Henry was in on last week. If that number gets up to 80, like, total smash for Hunter Henry against the Raiders team, who has not defended the tight end position very well at all recently. So, Hunter Henry is more expensive at 4,100, only 1,200 less than Jordan Reed, but I'm still interested in him. If anybody wants Hooper or Kittle or anybody versus Hunter Henry, let me know.
Yeah, I like Henry quite a bit as well.
I would like Ryan Griffin plus some points. If that's
okay. Just because the Cleveland matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. We have the difference right now is 1.2 points. So are you fine with Griffin plus 1.2?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's really a question that people are going to ask themselves, right? Like the tight ends versus Cleveland thing is out there now. Like, everybody knows about it, but people don't even know who Ryan Griffin is. Like, I don't know, Freeman, do you have like a scouting report on Ryan Griffin at all?
Yeah, actually. So it's taken him a while to do anything, but at UConn, his final year, he caught 60% of the team's touchdowns. Like, that is Gronkian.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something that happens often with college tight ends. So he actually was a pretty impressive college player in that regard. I mean, there's not much to say about how he's historically been used at Houston, but they thought enough about him as kind of the second tight end there, even with C.J. Fedorowicz's breakout last year, to re-sign Ryan Griffin to a not insubstantial contract to be the number 2 tight end. So I don't know. I mean, I think he has some potential there, but a lot of it is just based on like what he did years ago in college, and who knows really how applicable that is now.
Levitan, what are your thoughts on like target expectations for ASJ moving forward?
Yes. So Jermaine Kearse to me can't play. Jeremy Curley to me can't play. Like, Robbie Anderson, as much as I like him from what he's done in the preseason, it's mostly just joking. Like, his catch rate and production is like laughable. So I don't see why you wouldn't want to continue to feature a really talented dude who's just a huge mismatch. Like, I don't know, this dude's measurables are, I don't even know what, like 6'7", 260 with like 4'5" or something like that. Freedman, like, I don't know, something totally insane. So I don't see why ASJ wouldn't keep getting 6, 7, 8 targets a game.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic athlete. There was a lot to like about him coming out of college. Obviously, he had his early career struggles with, inconsistency and then also substance abuse issues. But it seems like now he's gotten kind of on the right side of everything, and he's on a team that has no targets to speak of. So, yeah, I mean, I think rock on.
What about Evan Engram versus ASJ this week? I want Evan Engram side.
Yeah.
What was up with his – what's up? What was up with him not like getting a single target?
He was busy watching all his wide receivers die.
Yeah.
Did 2 things on Evan Engram. First, his wife or girlfriend or something was going ham on Twitter today. She was like, he wasn't even getting added, but she was like searching his name and like finding people that were like, why the hell did he get 0 catches? Evan Engram sucks, and just going ham on these people. So
Nico
go back
2.0.
on Twitter and find it for that. The other thing, the usage was there for Evan Engram last week. Only pass blocked once, ran a route on like 90% of Eli Manning's dropbacks. I didn't watch the game. I have no clue whatsoever how he had 0 catches on 4 targets, but with Sterling Shepard possibly out and Brandon Marshall and Odell Beckham definitely out, it's like hard to see them not featuring Evan Engram as kind of in 2 tight end sets. And when I say 2 tight end, I don't even mean Evan Engram as a tight end. I mean literally Evan Engram like split out wide in the slot, like doing all these other things. And playing in Denver is like impossible, but Evan Ingram's target share should be really high.
Yeah, Eli threw so many times to his running backs last week as like that short little dump off. And I think a lot of people were expecting Engram would be that.
Here's an interesting one that you guys might like. I will take Golden Tate at even against Mike Evans. Obviously, Mike Evans has the Patrick Peterson matchup this week.
I actually like Golden Tate.
No biters. Last time these two teams faced, Jameis targeted Mike Evans 18 times.
It's so gross that Evans is only $100 more than Tate. That's like the biggest trap ever.
Was Peterson on him last game?
I believe it was like 33 out of 58 routes. Peterson was on him. I keep,
I think it's fine to be a root truther. That's totally fine.
A ruther.
You know what? These fucking Twitter assholes are all over me every time I say root, and I can't take it. So now I've been trying to concentrate on saying route.
Dude, don't read the comments, bro.
I usually don't. I really don't.
If our podcast wasn't explicit before, it is now. It is now. But that's okay. That's all right.
I would rather go to the same exact price point and bet Fitz.
Oh God,
First
let
Tate.
me bet against Fitz. Sign me up to bet against Fitz every week.
I would take Fitz over Tate.
Okay. Yes. Now we're talking.
I'll take Tate on that side as well.
Fitz versus Tate.
Yeah.
I'll take Tate. Although I don't want to. I mean, I don't know. I don't like going against Fitz, even though I think it's a smart move. I want some. Let's see. What is our projection on Amendola? Like I think around like 11 points or something like that. I want to take the over on wherever we have him. We have him at 11.3. I want the over if anyone's fine with taking the under.
I mean, I think New England puts up a 50 burger, so it's hard to take that bet.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like people want to rip Danny Amendola for being fragile and always being hurt, but while he's playing this Wes Welker, Julian Edelman role, it's like really hard to fail. Like his catch rate is going to be so high. So if he gets 9 targets and he's going to catch 7 to 8 of them, like how do you not get 11 points? So maybe we should look at that projection again if we all kind of agree that it's going to go over.
I would take another price point bet and go Djax versus Amendola. They're only 200 apart.
Interesting. Let me look at that really quickly. Where do we have we have Djax for 13.4. Would you give me a point?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that.
It's really hard to make a Djax projection because most often it's going to be like 19 or 4. You know what I mean? So like median projection on Djax, like it's kind of irrelevant. And while I'm here, like people hopefully aren't building their lineups off of median projections just because of kind of exactly what I just talked about. Like median projection on a lot of players is kind of meaningless when their range of outcomes is so polarized towards 18 or 4 and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just an example of somebody hard to make a projection for.
You know what? I'm actually interested. So you guys are high on the Patriots, understandably so. We have Cooks at 13.7 right now as the median. I don't know. I would be interested in taking the under if you guys wanted to take the over.
On Cooks?
On Cooks?
On Cooks, yeah.
I would – you want the under?
I don't mind taking the under.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever. I'll give me all the Patriots. I'll take the over.
Yeah, I think he's – just because of the way he scores, he could be the odd man out. I actually kind of like the under there.
Yeah. Boom, winning. Brian, one quick thing. Whatever the under is on Trubisky, I'll take it if you want the over.
Deal. Trubisky is at 13.7 points.
Yeah, I'll take the under.
I would also take the under, but this is gonna be my new brand moving forward.
Yeah.
Trubisky.
I just realized how cheap Amari is. That's really gross.
Yeah.
And when he goes for 2, you know.
I know.
Really nice.
I wanted to write about him in the Roto World pivot piece, but I've written about him for literally like 3 weeks in a row, and there was like no way I could do it for like a 4th week in a row.
Yeah, 5K is crazy.
Yeah, he's super cheap.
Levitan, are you going to give you gonna take Cooper over Crabtree against me and Freedman like Pete does every week?
Well, it's already booked. It's already taken.
Booked with Pete. Yeah, I'm just saying.
It's just a standing bet with Pete. Yeah, you guys can have that. I do think that's crazy though. Crabtree is pretty clearly like when the quarterback drops back, whether it's been Manuel or Carr, even if Cooper is open now, he's looking to Crabtree. So that's kind of the scary thing for sure. Like the quarterbacks have lost confidence in him. Yeah. So yeah, straight up would be an absurd bet. I do think Crabtree's underpriced as well at 5,800.
What are your guys' thoughts on defenses? I'm not sure if you've grinded defenses. We're recording Tuesday night, so probably not. Houston is obviously the going against Cleveland at home, probably going to be a popular one, but they're also 39. So finding that cheap defense might be interesting here.
I'll do. Let me see. I'll take, if you guys are interested, we can do a draft where I'll take Houston first, you take 2, and then I take 4th.
Yeah, I do want to say before we get into that I think this is a week where you might not necessarily need that cheap defense just because we have a couple pump plays. I think you can pay up.
Yeah, you could get up to Houston for sure.
I'll take Denver over Houston if anybody wants it straight up.
It's a good one.
What's Cleveland look? Are they going to be Hogan? Is that what it looks like, or are we just a coin flip at this point?
I'd be shocked if it wasn't Hogan based on what they're saying.
FYI, Hogan and Kaiser have almost identical interception rates. They're both at 5.2%, I think. Small sample, but worth noting.
I'll do now. Denver's such a good spot there. I can't do them over Houston.
Eli's going to die out there. No offensive line, no wide receivers in Denver off of bye.
There's no way I can do that.
Yeah,
Denver's.
You can restrict it to main slate for
let's stick it to main slate. So I'll do Houston, and then if you want to take 2, and then I'll take another one after that, and whoever has the highest.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take you on that. I'll go Atlanta and Baltimore.
Damn it, that was exactly where I was going.
Yeah, but you can take it too.
Yeah, it's no fun though.
Okay.
I'll take give me Baltimore and New England, even though New England has really not tried to put pressure on the quarterback this season. I feel like they go into the bye and they realize that their defense is getting just torn apart. Perhaps we should start putting pressure, or at least trying to put pressure on the quarterback. So I'll take Baltimore and New England.
Okay. TJ?
Can I just go super contrarian for the sake of being contrarian? I'll go Redskins and Broncos.
Well, not main slate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Broncos aren't on main slate.
They restricted you from the nut.
Redskins and Ravens.
Okay. All right. So I will do New England against Bryan. I will do Atlanta against Levitan. And TJ, you went Baltimore.
Yep.
And
Washington.
Washington, yeah. I will do I'll do Atlanta.
Cool.
Let's see here. I'm going to stay away from any kicker props. I might accidentally pick someone who's on IR again.
Oh, you had Cairo?
Yeah. Total donkey move.
It's tough to do these pods on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Mistakes are made.
Oh, man. I've been doing my kicker. I've been looking at kicker exclusively on Sunday morning. I'm such a disaster. It's so unprofessional. I don't know how it gets to that, but always 11 o'clock, I'm like, all right, who do you guys like a kicker?
It's not working out for you?
Actually, no, it's not working out. No, I was going to say that it's been okay, but it really hasn't because everybody had Vinatieri last week, and I was like, I'm going to pay up a little bit, and then Vinatieri went for 18 and just total burial because the week was so low scoring. You only needed 90-something to cash, and freaking Vinatieri is out there with 18. You know what I mean? It's so tilting.
This is wonderful. TJ, How do you pronounce that player's last name?
I was wondering if someone was going to say this.
Vinatieri.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Vinatieri.
Are you saying that I'm wrong or TJ's wrong?
I think we're all saying that you are wrong.
Vinatiere.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Vinatieri and not Vinatieri. Is that how you're pronouncing it again?
That's the true Italian pronunciation. Freedman.
Yeah, bro.
Vinatieri. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I can't wait to read your Twitter mentions.
I wonder if he's ever run a receiving route. Are we done here? Does anyone else have another problem?
I love it. That's like a Hall of Fame, like one of the few Hall of Fame kickers.
I don't know his name.
So great. Yeah, let's kill it.
Yeah, I think we're done. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Good luck in week 6. You can follow us all on Twitter at TJ Hernandez. Thanks, TJ, for coming on. At Matt F. The Oracle and I'm sorry, I didn't give you a chance to speak. At Adam Levitan. Follow us on Twitter. TJ, thanks, man.
Thanks for having me. Talk to you later, guys.
Cool. All right. Good luck, everyone, in week 6. We'll talk to you guys next week.